Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my busy little shop. On today's episode of What's in My Workbench, I'm working on a tote, and I've got my written instructions here. I took a little bit of time this morning, sat down and wrote out in order of what needs to be done. And one of the other things that came out of that whole conversation is cut out all the parts to begin with, because I've done that before where, I'll cut that out, the pocket or whatever, out later. It doesn't need to be cut from this leather, but I figure that's one more way of ensuring that, or helpfully ensuring that I use it, is if I have it sitting out on the table where I'm starting to assemble things. So anyway, I'm glad you've taken time to be with me in the shop today. Let's go over here on my cut table and we'll see how it's going. So I've got my instructions here, and I've laid out everything, including hardware, in case I need to make some type of adjustment in hardware because of what I have on hand. The leather that I'm using here is an oil tan, but you can see where it was up against, I'm assuming that was up against another roll of oil tan that imparted some oils on here. So what I'm going to do when I'm finished, I'm going to oil the whole thing to help blend that in. And the client that chose this out and came in to kind of design the bag knew that was there, didn't bother them. So, with wear and tear, and this is going to be kicked around in the pickup truck and on job sites, so it's going to get used and abused. So we decided to keep this brand here. That was one of the features. And I ended up needing to come up with a way to, I guess, expand the size of leather. So I sewn on these corners here that will be used to get my width, because where the brand was, it was tapered here. So I sewed both of these corners on, well, all four of them, it's on both sides. And the next thing that we're going to do is I've also created my interior pockets. This is a heavy duty bag. It's going to get used that way. And I went ahead, I don't always do this, but this has got some oil to it, so I'm assuming that my tape is going to have a hard time holding things in place. So I tacked in this pocket assembly here, and this top edge is going to have leather wrap at the top. Once again, that was done so that I'm not encroaching on this pattern here. The next thing that this bag is going to have that's different than my other is on the back side, we're going to have a pocket out of leather like this. And it will tie in these accents here. And this was just one additional pocket that they wanted. We really talked about, at one point, having a pocket on both sides on the outside. But obviously then we defeat the purpose of being able to see that brand. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is to install this on the top here that I'm using as a binding and accent on here. I applied some double-sided tape to the back of this binding that goes on the top to hold it in place while I get it sewn. And I put a line on here to line up on as well. I'm just burying that line slightly across there. And I start in the center because that's where I'm going over that pocket assembly, and I want it to make sure that it's, if I start over there, then it might be too tight here. And as long as my goal is to either match or cover where that line is on the other side. So when I sew it, I don't get off the edge there. This leather I'm using on top here is actually some boot lining material that I purchased at the Prescott Leather Show. Okay. Let's see if we have enough thread here. And we do. I keep a piece of veg tan leather under the presser foot here on the sewing machine. I find that oil from up in here tends to work its way down and pools on here. And the last thing I want to do is set it on a leather project and stain that. So out of habit, I keep it on there. So I'm going to use the guide here to keep me straight across here. And I want this stitch line to be fairly close to this bottom edge. Not exact, because I don't want to take a chance of it coming off on the outside or the inside and not having things sewn in place. You know, I'm going to do a double line across here. So I'm going to start up here a little bit. Kind of following along with my heavy-duty bag mindset here. And I don't need to worry about a back stitch here because this seam will be sewn together here, and that'll keep that from coming out as well. All right. Off to the races here. Now I'm going to sew a second line across here like I mentioned, but what I'm going to do to make sure these line up, I'm going to go ahead and get the second binding put on here, and I'll sew that in place without adjusting this. Then I'll adjust this and sew both bottoms the next time. Okay. I'll sew the other one and then come back. So next, I'm going to sew the bottom on here. And I started putting these bottoms on here, figuring it would help protect the leather from wear and tear of being maybe set down on a sidewalk or a wet surface of some sort. Maybe it would help protect it. It's probably more for me than anybody, but I will say that out of the people that I've made these for, a lot of people see that and they're like, ooh, I like that idea. So I think it's a good idea to do. I use double-sided tape to hold it in place, which doesn't work great on some of these oil tans. While we're sewing here, I had someone ask me about a video a few times ago. It was the 4th of July video where I made the red, white, and blue belt. And they asked me what name I chose. And when I asked, for people to help me name the belt, I didn't anticipate having so many great suggestions. I got to move these back spools out of the way. And I tell you, there was a bunch of them there, so I'm not sure how to pick the best. I thought about having you guys vote on that, but you guys are the ones that came up with the ideas. So it'd be like asking you to vote for yourself, which I don't have a problem with that. And there are people out there that would say, oh, I like that idea better. But I had the Independence belt, the Liberty belt, the red, white, and blue belt. Shoot, there was a bunch of good suggestions in there. So I've decided that I'm not going to pick one yet. But what I am going to do is everybody that put a comment in that on that video, I'm going to put your name in a drawing, and somebody is going to win one of my Western belts. And it doesn't have to be the red, white, and blue belt. It can be any of the Western belts. And I make those typically in 1.5 inches, but if someone has to have 1.25 inches, I can do it in an 1.25 inch belt as well. So, so to find out who is drawn on that, you're going to need to go to the comment section. And I'm going to make a comment. I'll be probably the first comment in there, but I'm going to put a comment in there. I need to pay attention to myself here. I want to mess up my corner. And I'll put the person's name in there. So the person who is the winner of that, just a simple drawing, all they'll need to do is reach out to me. The easiest way probably is through Facebook Messenger. And just reach out to me and we'll get things figured out, and I'll make you a belt and we'll get it on your way. I'm just taking my time here. I don't want to have to make another bottom piece to go on there. So I have, the pockets are installed. They're sewn in very securely here. The bottom is in as well. And I've been thinking about this next step. On one side of this, I'm installing this pocket. And, you know, we talked about this, believe it or not. I like this really stretch marked section of leather, and I cut out another one just to see which one I think fits better. This is going to be easier to sew in, but we talked about the fact of kind of showing some of these scars, and it goes on the other side. But I need to decide which one I'm going to sew in there. We talked about this with all of these wrinkles and stuff. I think I'm going to use this on here. I think it's kind of a cool look. Plus, on this outside pocket, I think this will help give extra stretch for putting notebooks or whatever she's going to carry in this. And then the other thing I was going to do is I was going to pinch the top just like a 1/4 inch, 1/8 on each side, to give this a little bit of a pooch to go in there. But I need to install the handle, and I'm really thinking about this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the holes to install the handle, but I'm not going to until after I get this on there. I think it's just going to be too much stuff going on around the sewing machine to try to get this patch or pocket sewn on there. Yeah, so enough talking about it. So there's a different element on this. It's more decorative than anything, but we decided that what we wanted to do was to install this. Usually what I do is I install it in this upper corner of the pocket. So I have one more way of attaching this pocket here. It also gives more meat here for this handle. So if it gets yanked around on, it should be plenty tough. But where I was going with that is once I get this attached on here, then this gets sewn on here as well. Just another, it's more of a decorative feature than anything else, but it'll set down somewhere about there. And it also gives me a place I can put my maker's mark on there. I suppose the that you could just attach it here and let this hold it there, but I like to have this mechanically attached to the bag, the pocket, and all of this up here. So you won't see it on the outside. This thing's gonna be stout enough you can carry rocks around in it, which might be appropriate. It's for a landscaper. Attach this handle with a couple of Chicago screws to hold it in place while I mark and get this next hole created for the handle. Okay. And I just use a square on the top of the bag to the handle to make sure I have it lined up correctly. Table's going to bounce some here, but I didn't want to move it over to the other surface. Make sure your pocket's out of the way before you make this hole. Let's get this set on here. I'm going to lay it on upside down first. It'll make sense here. I'm going to just put a light mark here. Yeah, remember I said I was going to bring it in like 1/8 of an inch, create a little bit of a pucker here. And while I'm here, I'll do one other thing. On these bags, I like to secure corners. I'll do it here with a Chicago screw. It's on the pocket here as well, and I'm going to do it on this pocket here. And I'll do it before I sew, and I'll show you why. I'll use my micrometer to get it set here. Do I like it? Thinking about it here. Back to the sewing machine. I'm going to take it over there and I'm going to sew around here. And yeah, I think that's all I need to do. Then I'll come back and I'll do the Chicago screw. So I'm going to start in one of these and finish in the other one. You won't see any start-stop on my threads that way. And then the Chicago screw will help secure that, and I'll put a washer, leather washer on the inside as well to back that Chicago screw up. All right, so I've got the pocket sewn on the outside now. I'll put the Chicago screws in when I do the whole handle and Chicago screws part of it. I think it'll be nice and spacious. The idea, I think, is to put a spiral bound notebook in there. So I decided while I was sewing, I'm going to go ahead and create the holes for my handles, but I'm still going to leave them off because I'm going to turn this bag inside out and sew these two edges here. And then the last thing is sewing the bottom, and I figured less leather is probably better. As long as I have the holes made, it should be simple enough to come and put the handles on with the Chicago screws afterwards. And if you remember, I said I use a Chicago screw here, so I want to get that installed, or at least the hole for it. Let me line these up here. And I put a strong 1/4 inch seam allowance on this edge here, so there's plenty of leather to hold it. So I'll just visually line up these 2 holes here and binder clip this together. I want my top lined up. If I'm off a little bit down here, when I put that other seam in, it won't be quite so obvious. But if the top doesn't line up, that will be obvious. I also put a big binder clip here to help keep these aligned so it doesn't want to twist and pivot here while I'm working on this. Plenty of thread. I will tell you, if you run out of thread, it's going to be on something that was extremely difficult to sew. So that you get to do that again. Move this guy down a little bit. Easiest just to line up like this and then adjust the foot to it. All right, I think I'm ready. Let's roll. Now, there are some that would say to skive this edge to make it thinner. And, you know, I might try that if I had a bell skiver. This leather wasn't strong enough temper to make it easy to skive that. But I also decided not to, because I wanted enough meat there that the stitches are, you know, really holding good in it. And it doesn't, this bag isn't hard to turn right side out, which is another reason why you would skive. Don't sew your finger, don't sew your finger. When I come this other way, it'll tie that stitch in for me. All right, we are almost done. Pockets inside, pocket outside, holes for handles, handles made. I do have to put this on the inside, and typically on these ones that I only put a pocket on one side, I hang off that bottom one. I'm going to take that Chicago screw out and I'll make a strap and I'll hang it on here. Just a place to hang keys. And so last thing I need to do is to put this in place so that I can sew that. And that's going to be a challenge, and I'm not going to be able to show it to you because the whole bag is going to be in the way. You know what? Let me think about that. I might be able to get an angle where you can see me do that. And you may get a rare opportunity to see me cuss, because this is obviously the most challenging one, because we're almost there. Why not make it the most challenging, right? The last one. I don't know any way to do it other than the direction I do here, which is to make it last. If I didn't put this bottom panel on, it would be easier, but it gets a little bit tight in here with this thicker veg tan leather on the bottom. Still thread. Okay. Yep. Pretty good, I think. Same seam allowance as the side of the bag. Wasn't perfectly straight, but it'll be fine down here. Leave that one there for now. I hope you can see. Apologize if you can't. And I'm going to back stitch, a little extra stitching here. And now I've got to make this big step up onto that leather. And I find it helps to do that and relieve some of that pressure. I'm creeping away from my foot a little bit. And I'll back stitch my tab. Now the one thing that I don't like is the leather wants to kind of float here a little bit since the pressure foot is sitting up here on this leather. I don't know a way around that. Maybe someone's got an idea on that, let me know. Let me show you something. If this is down here, you can see it starts pulling this top leather away. So I'll rotate this bag up, keep pressure on that. I guess in some ways I'm trying to tell you how to do it. I'm telling you how I do it. I learned some of these by making mistakes and redoing them. And next month will be my first full year of having the sewing machine, so I feel like I'm doing okay with it. And I'll just back stitch here probably an inch. Okay. I guarantee you, looks better than my first machine sewn tote, those stitches. I think we're in pretty good shape. We finished the sewing on the machine. We're about ready to turn it right side out, but I'm going to go ahead and install some of these Chicago screws, especially the handle ones, because the inside is where the screwdriver part is. So easier to do this now. Nail polish on the threads. I'm going to ask you a question. How do you go about reordering your hardware? Do you go through it all, or do you make a list as you use up the last of it, or you can tell you're near the bottom of it? If it's something that I use up, I keep the empty bag and I set it on one spot on my workbench so that I know, what I need there and get that ordered. And I've been lucky. Most of the time, I'm able to, I'm talking here, I'm going to make a mistake. Most of the time, I am able to meet minimum order with the different companies to keep from having a freight charge. This clear fingernail polish is definitely harder to undo than I was using like Elmer's glue. Just something on the thread helps. But I have had a few of these with the clear fingernail polish that were almost impossible to remove. So here's the last look. Let's turn her right side out, see how she looks. I try to be careful of the threads, but I think this is pretty stout, so, but it doesn't hurt to take a little bit of time. Turn this right side out. The gardener that ordered this wanted a heavy-duty bag. Well, they've got a heavy-duty bag. That's a bag. Let's turn the camera around. We'll take a look at it. The only thing I have left to do is to put these on there, and they're going to get hand sewn here, 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 and here. I'm not sewing across the top. It's decorative, and I had this idea. I don't know if it'll work. Thought it might be a good place to shove a pencil or a pen. Place to find them there. Let's turn the camera around. All right, so here we go. Here's the tote, and I think I said, but it's a landscaper. They're going to use this as kind of their mobile office. Everything they need for the day will go into the tote here. I went ahead and sewed these on here. Had to be done anyway, so I figured might as well have it done for the last look at the reveal. This is the pocket here. This is an oil tan leather. This leather here should be tough as a boot because this is boot leather here. This is from SB Foot, is the tanner, and I purchased this from Montana Leather. I can't remember where this one came from. I think that was Montana Leather as well. I think it came out really nice. So this is this pouch here, big enough to put a journal in or a spiral bound notebook. This is the brand side. I'm not sure how well it shows in the light today. I'm going to put a coat of oil on this before I deliver it. I like how these end panels came together with this quote-unquote patch that I did here so that I could put this brand where I wanted it. The inside has got two large pockets here, 8 inches by 8 inches deep, and then there's a place here to connect keys or maybe a small bag of essentials. And then the two handles are made from 2 layers of this boot leather and sewn together, glued together, and attached to the bag. I think it came out pretty good. I appreciate you taking time to be with me in the shop today. Please like, share, and subscribe. But more importantly, I hope you have a great day.